Hello, world.
I want to begin us in the pattern called fear. But that's a wrong name for it. It's a pattern that's on purpose. It has strength of rationale. It's partner to how we discover what to do. We need to know this so that we don't assume that fear is going to block our capacities in some manner, and associate fear with a daring do kind of assessment moment. Whoa, something's really wrong. Let's take another look carefully. Or ready yourself to know to move from the core. When fear starts to cooperate with the body, move to your core. It's not a defense place, we know now. It's an activator energy there. As I'm speaking this, those who are participating and partnering tonight, touch into your light of being. Emulate it. Yes. Yes, you, mind side. Emulate this light. Let it in and let it seem to be the author again. Emulate it. We usually emulate in private. And it's sort of a wishing moment. Wishing to be that. But we practice it. We can feel the divine motivating our spirit again. The light being is not a thing. It's an undergrad course nature that makes it so that you have plenty of manner that you can thrive in this now frame of learning. It makes it so you want to learn. So you have to learn. You must learn. It's the must energy. I am present. I am the light nature. And all that I view will be summoning all of my personal way of responding so that it can respond accurately. When I meet you in this kind of connection we have on Zoom, there is an oddity. It's a kind of treatment of the subject with ideas about us here. Me here, you in your own body, stating I am here, trying to wonder this. I won't tell you much, but on that same agenda that the light has to make you bodily side appear fully ready, make it so that the light I am and the light that is greeting you from all of us put you on the frontier. All patterns vanish here because you're called on.
May I be called on?
Mm-hmm.
I love this topic, and bringing in violence and fear and feeling and emulating the light, because that's what, I mean, lately things have been moving in such a beautiful way of actually understanding for the first time how to navigate or integrate fear and understand how to feel my feelings and have them be partners rather than threats that keep my mind in fear. Because there's been all these feelings swirling around, and my intellect, understanding mind hasn't known how to deal with them, and finally it's learning how to open and let things move together in wholeness and know that I am the light and that it's safe to be the light, and that when fear comes in, that's a signal to check and what's going on here, and see things through that light rather than letting the fear and letting the anxiety be just felt as a negative experience that keeps me closed down.
While you're speaking, I'm practiced in wondering how the energy around you, around all of us, is being seen to. While we talk, we can have a part of us that still is going to be threatened or still is going to be concerned. And it's slightly, as in your case, off at an angle, awaiting something to help it. So we're going to do a what if. Every topic, every way of having reacted or believing you could react again is going to play with this, reeled into this center of light. All of you've ever had a discussion with, and all of the history you might try to visit again, reeled in. The history isn't as simple to do this with because the history is done, but our thoughts about it are not. So we invite that to enter this huge core study place, but it's only light there. It's not idea yet. Go ahead, Parker.
Well, I just am wondering, because it seems true in my experience, that connecting with the light through others, connecting with the light in others, seeing the light in others as we recall these things, is a way to access that space.
Would anyone like to comment to that? Are you playing with that one? Are you seeing the light in Parker? In any of us who are speaking?
It seems to
seeing
me
is real, but hard. Go ahead, Harry.
It seems to me when Parker was talking, I could sense forgiveness. When you went, what I saw was when you were saying what you were saying, seeing people, the light in them, there was a forgiveness because you were no longer seeing them as their mind, as their animal self. You were seeing what they truly are, and you could forgive at that point. So that was wonderful when you said what you said.
Would you stay on that word forgiveness and describe it for all of us?
For all the wrongs that have been done, that have been perceived by Parker having been done against him, he's saying, I don't hold it against you anymore because you are not that. You are the light. I've recognized that in you. And so there's no more to be upset with.
Well said. Whether or not that's true of Parker, it's well said. Because on some level, what we're doing is releasing all possibilities of being affronted or concerned or intrigued overly by the human there, and teaching our awareness to see the light. Fantastic.
Well, whether that applies to Parker or not, I will say that when he was speaking, it did make a shift in me. It almost brings this conversation, almost brings tears to me, because there was just something wonderful that was being conveyed by Parker. It may not be in his words, it may have been the energy, but it was very, very beautiful. That's all I can say.
Well, I just want to say, yeah, one more thing, because I feel like this is such a powerful moment. And Harry, the funny thing about it, or the thing, like you said, there's something that isn't necessarily conveyed through words, but it's definitely a practice for me. And I'm really happy that Anam is on this topic, even though we're probably always on this topic. It's just whether or not we see into it. But
It's absolutely real. Yes.
For me, what she said about that, it's at an angle. This part of my mind is off, or there's something off to an angle, and I just couldn't quite notice that I wasn't fully in my light. And so what I then spoke to, I felt like, and then what I feel like I tapped into, which maybe was the energy that was more filled and full and exciting, is actually connecting visually. For me, I have eyes, and visual is how my mind knows how to identify, or the brain knows how to identify things. So actually letting myself become absorbed almost, or fall into the light of you that is in front of me, letting myself fall into the light of you, then allows my light to just flow out as well.
Every atom is light. So it's an astonishing recollection of we're looking at light. We have learned to see kind of a gravity of how light has focused and provided what seems to be firm form. But light is connecting you to the core purposefulness of atomic reasoning. It does have a reason, and it could just be intelligent, that atom, but only in community. Only in community do we process and function with reason, and the utility of it we call connective action. It is a powerful tool. It teaches you immediately to forgive, as Harry said, the reactive mind that constantly pays attention to the tit for tat and the this and the that, instead of the unity connectivity that is before we try to lord it over everything with any ideas about ourselves. You here and now. Let's do one more tick on this topic. Just a little edge. Just give me one moment. Just one moment. Just a little tick.
Yes.
Take your high hat off of your brain. You have a hat. It's called your compelling of how you see yourself in the world. remove it and sense what happens, what's left over from your real awareness. It's hard to do, but you might find this fabulous too. You can take our hats off. You can imagine taking off whatever hat or halo or or cloud you think is on someone. Just again, like Harry said, having what is here as is, not as something we put on ourselves. So with that, Aaron, did you have something to add?
Yeah, you just dispelled like 9 of the things I wanted to say. So thank you.
You want to describe a little bit of that action?
Of what you just did?
What you experienced, yes. And what you know to do.
Yeah. I mean, the tendency, almost a repetition of how I might see a situation was coming up. The tendency, and almost an elitist, almost like a
privileged.
Yeah, there's a privileged quality to it. And what if I just remove all of that on top of even the idea of whatever I was about to say before?
Even the shame and the sensitivity about it, you know, even trying to not be that, all of it.
Yes. You know, how deeply can I die?
What other way would you say that? For
How
those
much
who are listening.
How much can I lean towards the light? You know, how can I? Being human in many ways means we're going to be very gray. When the light is this starts to sound so weird, but and I'm already losing the feeling, but the light is the light, and it's obvious, and there's no gray in it. And when I start to hear the light being spoken of with a gray, from the gray, I start to feel this feeling of like authenticity is just not quite there. And that gray starts to get thicker and thicker, and then all I hear is the gray. And I wonder what part of me is listening to that and comprehending that.
Every part that has to do with fear, that's trying to tell us how we're supposed to behave in this particular situation. And
Yes.
It builds its own cornea, its own way to protect the eyesight from any kind of intrusion.
Huh.
So we go again to Harry Newman. We like that last name, Newman. And know that the moment I meet with any one of you, you are the one I am intrigued to remain with as love itself, not as idea. And that's pure forgiveness, isn't it, Harry? It doesn't have a thing to do with thought about, okay, I'm going to get over your mist and your gray and your external appearance and how rude you just were to that man over there. I'm going to keep giving that over so I don't miss any part of this offering of us. And that means I have more room. There's a word coming. I have more room to be holden, to be beholden, to be what is beholden to you for our intelligent purpose. So I enter with gratefulness, even if my mind sawed you in half. That's a pun. And made you minuscule, as you note, not behaving properly. I
Like
must
how you said,
never leave that to the mischief of hoping you'll get better, and then we can meet again. I am due you if I am here. You are due me if we are here together. Aaron, go ahead.
sorry. Yeah, you said, I think you said, just destroy you, or however you said it. You had said it as a you, but obviously you didn't destroy all of us. I mean, you're only destroying the part of us that is keeping the light from coming through.
Right, in me. In me seeing you.
Correct.
I am releasing that, not destroying only. It's sort of a good word, I suppose.
Yeah.
And if I try to create you in my own version before I am love's workings, I will miss my purpose and yours and ours together. That's pretty much the game constantly. And we can be very secure in the fact that we keep missing the holiest purpose because we're shy, we're embarrassable, we're conceited, we're loyal to what we want to get done before 5 o'clock tonight. So we rarely have a good meeting. Yes, Harry.
I experimented, not the mind, but I'll just leave it as I experimented with what you were saying about if I don't care for this person very much, pushing it, if I drop that, then I felt the openness, much more open, as you were saying, that you can engage so much more. And then after that, I then felt love enter. So openness was followed by love, all because you dropped you did this or that, or you're probably a mean person. It's such a much beautiful place to be than going in with.
And vitally awake to what to do. I might still have to reason with this man or woman differently than seeing eye to eye. Eye to eye, yeah.
That's one of the, I think, most uncomfortable, at least for me. It's much of a learning process to recognize the call to behavior or communication that adequately, or that is true, that matches, that meets the light, that comes from the light, because it might just be stillness and nonverbal communication. But there's these things that are like the patterns of, so what did you study in school? So, and it's this nervous thing. But when I learn to trust it and to see the light and be the light, then harmony emerges in a much greater way.
And you turned us right back around to where we began, which is fear. Everyone is nervous when in a new situation, or what looks like we're returning into the pattern of nothing needed. So wonderful to remember to have curiosity, even if we have to start with, who's your hairdresser? It's just divine how you're looking these days.
Gotta start
Super,
somewhere.
super cuts.
Because it helps the person get over the jitters little by little and get associated with the energy. And the more we admire, or basically what I mean by that is admire the reasons of good that have made me adjust myself to be all I can be this moment, this minute of us. There's a never-ending sentence that flows right from that beginning. It never stalls, this light of communion among us. We know when we're away from each other, any of us who are sitting in this gathering know that there is some conversation still burbling along in our soul connection. The conversation isn't our language, however. It's within the verse of your whole word, your whole great way of being God for real. That maybe through our interactions, it's not the right word, it's really intercoursings, we maintain an asinine mind in front of others just to keep connecting all of the smaller intrigues with our higher regard for what must be the holy of each. Whether we know it, whether they're demonstrating it, if we maintain it, the same as knowing every atom is light. We maintain that, whether or not that holiness ever presides on earth. We know that if we maintain that, I, at least, and each of you who do it, will be made to be a remedy for whatever possible timing that remedy is useful. A remedy. Some kind of touch-in of love that cures some of the angst. It has to keep occurring because a remedy doesn't, it's like breath, it never isn't enough except in that very basic moment. So it comes again. Perhaps you're only nervous, perhaps you're only frightened when you're trying to figure out what to do by yourself. If you believe you're in community, it's harder to start with belief because that's very mental. But if you go to the holy meaning of belief, which is you are in love with the holy community and vanishing, as Aaron, you mentioned, this kind of, can I die another way, to the old way of thinking about me. So I'm just left whole in community. No severance, no mind tripping over body thoughts. They'll come anyway, but we won't trip on them as often. And we can look around in our own aura and go, oh, I still have a viewpoint I need to talk to Parker about in 2 days. So we bring that back into the core. We don't have to hold it there, as if memory will keep us on this engaging remedy. We just trust in our communing, and it will happen with or without us talking on the phone or zooming in like this. Any last remedies you want to discern and put into your words?
I'd like to say a word about curiosity, because I think that is one of the greatest vehicles for love that there is. when you can be curious about someone and really be curious. You want to know who they are, not what they do or what they're, not the silly things. But when they get that, well, I should say when I get it from someone, it's one of the greatest gifts that they could give me. And vice versa, if someone is in fear and ignores me or puts me aside, that's a pretty devastating thing. So to get myself off my own mind and to be curious about someone works every time for me.
Well, here's something we all may have experienced. It's, if not you being rejected by someone, you having rejected, not necessarily meaning to, but said, that's enough, I'm done with that, and moving on. This rejection, this mind made up, we're done, has a kind of a leaden effect on our nervous system. It dulls us down. What is the remedy for that? I like the curiosity piece. That's big. That could be enough even for tonight. Start with curiosity and that interest of compassion that he or she or me might have a need to respond that way while sorting out what he, she, me am for. No, while sorting out this great adventure scandal called Earthwalk.
Scandal.
The scandal of the skin. Here we go.
You asked what the remedy for, what was the rejecting? Like the getting
You
doled down
rejecting
by?
somebody, me rejecting, I have been rejected, you have been in some way turned away from or blamed or, thought, he's arrogant, I'm out of here. In some way they disappear or we disappear. And that, as I said, leaves a leaden dullness in us. It's like something has pushed us back into concrete.
Yeah, it's like not totally holy or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That same curiosity that you're giving to a beautiful new individual, could it also be given to, I'm curious why that's arising within me, that judgment? Like, can I be curious of that in myself? Would that shift anything within myself?
Try it another way, darling.
Yeah, so I think the what she had said, referencing that the how good it feels when someone's curious about us. I mean, what happens when we're sincerely curious about the one in us who is bothered? Like I'm to
It's
try
a
to
dead
find
end street, they call it.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
a dead end, but at the beginning, at least you are mindful enough to want to get to know what motivates you, what has made you the way you are now, and what you want to do about that. But if you keep going after it, as we all know, it's just going to make us visit the mirror all the way through this incarnation instead of being creatively curious about the atomic beings, not just the shade. We're the shade, we're the ghost. This is the shade. I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Well, not you and I, but
I was going to say, Aaron, that you can't cure the mind with the mind. You end up going there with the mind saying, I'm going to do this very logically. I'm going to go in and find out where it
Oh,
all
yeah.
happened. And then you go down that rabbit hole that you've been down 1,000 million times before. So
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think I
I-
was trying to explore something else. It wasn't, I know what you're driving at. It was something, it was another avenue. I just didn't get to it. I didn't make myself clear.
I
I
would
want to
just
ask
say
about it.
that I would just say that it's a good starting point for a few seconds. Then you have to give it over. It's not going to come from your mind. You have to go to the core. Let it
Yeah.
sit there.
So I would offer this to stay curious. I love that you brought this up. To stay curious, you need to back that curiosity up with enthusiasm to learn something you haven't seen via love's premonition on the subject, that all is moving you out of hell or hay to the reality of the true now, the true mix of now. Now that's a lot to ponder for a brain, but the first version of it is you are leaving dodge. You're leaving the habit of dodging this and that and me and her and them and yourself. As long as you maintain enthusiastic intrigue with finding remedies you haven't explored fully before, looking for the remedies, not what went wrong, because that's the long way around the track. The what went wrong. You can go around the track once, but then you must take what you've gathered and bring it. There are two ways to do it, and bring it and send it out to the higher way of being, or back into the light at your core. It isn't deterred by your head, where it changes its root, both spellings. It changes the way it's working. It changes where it's logged in. It changes there. It goes back to dust, or it goes into a remedy, one or the other. One or the other. It either leaves or it becomes part of a kind of a Hail Mary full of grace. It sort of raises us up to bring forth remedy constantly. Not for another at first. It's remedy so that this becomes the verse of reality. Just is. Doesn't try. Just is. You
I
didn't
have a
come, and
remedy.
we'll say this one last time, perhaps. You didn't really come to save anybody. You really didn't. You just came to be loved. Yes, Parker.
Yeah, this is literally exactly what
Mhm.
I mean. Until I have come to understand the different parts of myself that continue to cling and present themselves as suffering, until I, maybe in other people's experience, they can see that and just let that go and be blown into the light. But for me, I had to understand
Yeah, that's the
these
ones
parts of
around the block.
myself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so then once I understood that these parts were trying to help, and that my ego is trying to make me look good, and that my anxiety is actually trying to keep me humble and in line, then it's like, oh, I have understanding. And now finally I can be in the seat of self and speak to the parts of myself rather than them having dominion over me and them casting their spells over me. Now it's me, self, capital S, going, hey, everybody, it's okay. I see you, but we're here now with reality, and reality is love. And So only once I understood the parts, and then through meditation and all these other experiences, I've come to know what reality feels like for me. Now when the parts arise, no longer do they keep me trapped down, because I can open up and say, hey, I see you, but thank you, and here we are.
You're speaking directly to the fact of community engaging in this logic of not undermining anything, but bringing it up into where we can value it for what it is. So you used the gift of people alert to what you needed to take out of the drawers and bring forth. And you used the mind to wonder things. That didn't take you as perfectly as when you decided to give it a go and see what you could do under the conversational mystery of unwrapping in front of someone else. And you've been very good at that as long as I've known you. And that makes a huge delivery possible, where you can just go around a short while. We all spin for a while, and when we spin just by ourselves, it's going to get complicated instead of easy. Thank you for building that bridge. I'm going to pause this in a moment. The community of the souls, we'll call it again, the community of our clear nature, will help house all of the things you've thought and done in a different way of seeing into or through them, and then moving along differently, possible, differently.
Can I comment on community real quick?
Yeah, real quick.
Real quick. You know, I've noticed, and it's been a really tough last 2 weeks. I've been really sick. But in the middle, every night, I find the time somehow to talk to Anam. And you being that community, you guys, all of you guys being that community, that frequency. And it's interesting how that just hasn't left, and it won't leave no matter what. I just thought I'd comment on the comfort that brings me.
Yeah, it's great partnership at that level. I don't have to do a thing down here.
You don't have to do anything. Somehow I'm still talking to you late in the night. I hope I'm not waking you up. No.
Oh, that's what makes me turn into this one.
Oh.
I've been there too, wondering if I'm actually talking with her. Like, wait, are we actually telepathically speaking right now?
On
Sure.
some level, very definitely, on some level. The other way of it is like in dreams, it is usual that we will create people we know to be parts of ourself. So they simply take a position that only they, me, he, she could take by our style. For in your part, take your part, or take the part you need us to be. And so in a way, you may be just dialoguing with you. There's a little mystery, maybe a better word is a sense of indivisibility that supplies you with a new way to comb out the tangles.
It's like a presence, not necessarily words or conversation.
Right. That's the best.
It's like a fragrance from a flower.
The conversation should come ironically just through you. I say ironically because when we just talk to me through me, I don't get very far. But the holy level has a huge conversation with this person and supports it going out of entropy into the balance at the core.
This past week, I had 2 nights of dreams, which were spiritual dreams. The first night, it was very positive. I was within a dream knowing, hey, I was given information to know to do something within the dream. The second night, El was with me, or your angelic presence was with me. That didn't go so well. I think I was having a conversation with you. I think I was getting back to, well, right now this isn't going so great on the spiritual side. So I think you weren't there, but as you
I
were
was going to
saying,
say, I think you made me up.
yeah. So I'm bringing it up
Uh,
because you mentioned that sometimes we may
Mhm.
bring someone in and it's really part of us. So I was
Mhm.
having a spiritual conversation with myself using you as a sounding board or
Yes.
creating that sounding board.
That's so good. You can check in and say, is this me coming up with a way? Is this like a gestalt having this other to talk with me? And you'll get a sense of which is real now. Yes or no?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to tell in this because such words or such feelings have never come to me otherwise. It's too fresh, it's too new.
Well, we'll have more discussions about how that is about your willingness to be believed by your humbleness as a saint who's never had a choice, so you felt once, but to act like a common mind. I'll say that differently because I'm sure that's unique. Within you is a Holy One. It might be a microbe. You'll never be able to discover it under any kind of examination of the physical level. Nonetheless, it's within you, and it is all good. And it forgave the human mind to do the entropy level and discern why that's not such a bad nor great idea, neither way. It's neither going to ruin this great nature nor take it anywhere special. That's coming. It's somewhat of the fourth initiation where you just see through it all, and neither good nor bad is coming from your common perceptions. Your holy side will constantly balance you, however, and take away the various layers of me, mine, yours, ours, until there's connectivity viewed differently. So let's leave it at that for this evening. We look like we could just keep going, but we might be boring our other audience. So enough for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.